Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and in today's video we have the Game Week 3 stats breakdown. So for those who are new to the channel and you haven't watched this series before, this is a weekly video where I take you through all the stats that you need to know for Game Week 3, whether it's transfer trends, players predicted to score or assist, clean sheet odds, captaincy algorithm, and some extra stats for Game Week 3 as well. If you guys find this video useful, please do drop a like, and if you want to catch this series every week as well, do subscribe as well and hit that notification bell. Alright, so we'll start this video off with the top 10 transfer combinations or transfer trends, and this is based on all Game Week 3 transfers that have already been made so far. Now, it's no surprise that we see Nkunku here at the top of the list. A lot of people have mass sold him, some even moved on Sunday itself before he price dropped. Some maybe waited to think a little bit more and gather more information, but either ways, Nkunku is the highest sold in terms of the transfer combinations that we see here. And there are three standout replacements, as can be seen. It's Rodgers, Madueke, and Smith Rowe. I think this is the case because firstly, either they are at a similar price point or they are cheaper. So Madueke is now 6.5 million, and Nkunku has dropped to 6.4, so I don't think you can do a straight swap anymore. But if you do have the budget for it, like say for example you started the season with 0.5 extra and you do have that extra 0.1, you can make that move. But if not, the cheaper options, and the standout one there is Rodgers at 5 million and then Emil Smith Rowe at 5.5 million. There are other candidates that you can replace Nkunku with. Say for example Semenyo, 5.5 from Bournemouth is coming up as a decent option. If you don't have to start Nkunku this week, I think Minte is decent as well at 5.5. So lots of other ways that you can go. But in terms of what people are trending towards, it seems like Rodgers, for the extra, whether it's 1.4 or 1.5 million that you bank, could be useful later down the road to open up, transfer routes elsewhere. So I think for myself as well, that is where I would go. But I don't mind those Madueke and Smith Rowe options as well. Madueke would just be a little bit more of a risk for me. I think he starts, but the thing is with all Chelsea players, the number of options that we have in attack is just so vast that I could see a game where if the fixture crunch gets tight, or say for example they want to switch up some form of tactics, that Madueke could miss out here and there. I mean, for what it's worth, I'm not trying to scaremonger or anything. I do think he will start the next few. So if you're going for a short-term kind of a punt, I do like Madueke as well. Further down the list, we have Solanke to Welbeck, Barco to Wout Faes as well. I think the Barco to Faes move, I kind of do understand it, but it feels a bit knee-jerky as well because he just scored for Leicester. But I do think like when we're looking at replacements at the 4.0 million bracket, there are other options, and Wout Faes has also come out to say that he kind of wants a move away from Leicester. Now the transfer deadline will be closing. The transfer window, will be closing this Friday, 30th of August. So do keep a lookout for whether Wout Faes is still at Leicester before you move to him. That's what I would say. For the other transfers that we see here, we've seen Jacob Murphy being moved out. I kind of understand that as well. Newcastle's form, I guess, hasn't been very good. Murphy also hasn't been getting that good minutes. So I would understand that Rodgers and even Smith Rowe, slightly further down, right? Murphy to Rodgers is at 1.6%. Murphy to Smith Rowe is at 1.4%. I perfectly understand these moves as well. And in fact, I would be considering them myself if I had Murphy. The last kind of combination I want to talk about is Eze to Madueke. This is actually a move I wouldn't do because even though Eze is 0.5 more expensive, I think he justifies that with penalties, and he has been massively unlucky in terms of not getting any FPL returns. So this is a move I wouldn't do. Yes, he has Chelsea away now, but the fixtures after that are still decent for him. It's Leicester at home for Game Week 4, so I think you keep Eze. I don't kind of agree with the trend of Eze to Madueke being at 1.2% in terms of popularity, so I wouldn't do that. But in general, for the other moves here that we see, especially the Nkunku ones, I do get why these would be at the top of the transfer combinations. Let me know down below in the comments which one of these moves you've made, and if you've sold Nkunku, who for as well. So for this next section, we are taking a look at players due to score. Now this is based on the last 2 game weeks of data. The caveat here I would say is that in general, 2 game weeks is not really much to go by. For this section, as well as the next section, which is on players due to assist, for these to kind of really be useful, we need at least 5 to 6 game weeks of data. So until then, at least this section here is just to give us a bit of an indication of how players are performing, especially the amount of XG they are accumulating. We are still able to identify some players here who are not scoring as good as their expectation, and so the kind of presumption or hypothesis here is that their actual goals would tend towards their expectation, and that is kind of the basis that we're going by here. So when we're looking at kind of underperforming assets, the top here in terms of expected goals is Garnacho. You would understand this one because of the goal that was ruled out because Xerxes kind of hit the ball into the net and he was in an offside position. So had he left it, Garnacho would have gotten the goal. So that's kind of where a huge amount of XG came from. But you would remember that Garnacho also missed an clear as day open goal in the first game week. So he has accumulated a lot of XG. The issue with him is that he doesn't start. He hasn't been starting. So I think still at this point, regardless of whether he's kind of due to score soon, I still think he's a sell this week. And given that they're playing Liverpool, I think that kind of gives you a good reason to offload him as well. For Fernandes, it's slightly different. He's also price dropped to 8.4 now, but he is someone that has been massively unlucky. So has Eze, who is slightly further down as well at minus 0.9. I think when you look at these kind of Fernandes and Eze players, I still do think you hold them. I can understand the frustration for owners, and I do think like selling these players could kind of be a situation where losing patience with them. But if I had them, I think there are areas in your team elsewhere that you can deal with first. Fernandes and Eze are not to me urgent sells because of the numbers that they are putting up. 1.3 xg for Fernandes and 0.9 xg for Eze over the first 2 game weeks. They should have gotten more returns. So if you're able to hold and be patient with them, I do think in the next few they will start to return. Same for Watkins as well, who missed 2 huge sitters against Arsenal, and even in game week 1 as well, he did have a couple of chances. The issue with Watkins is that he's not back to full fitness, so he's not getting 90 minutes in each game. That is a worry for the price that you're paying at 9 million. So I would understand why maybe some people don't want to move on to him yet, despite the good fixtures. I'm a bit apprehensive myself as well. I don't think I would be going there until I see some significant improvement in terms of form as well as minutes. So that's my thoughts on Watkins. The rest further down on this list is Evan Nilsson, who had decent chance for Bournemouth over the weekend. You will remember that cross that he kind of narrowly missed out the tap in from. He really should have scored that one. Armstrong, Antonio also on this list. The last 2 is kind of the ones that I want to focus on. So Muniz, currently price risen to 6.1 million, and his XG over the first 2 game weeks is 0.7, so that is quite respectable. And at the end of this video, you will also see a couple of stats on Muniz. I actually think he is due to score quite soon for Fulham, given that the fixtures over the next few are quite good as well. He is a player I think will start to return. Same goes for Jota as well. It's interesting here because Jota has already had a goal in game week 1, but he is accumulating so much XG, 1.6 over the first 2 game weeks, such that even though he scored, he is still expected to score even more. So his kind of underperformance is at 0.6 goals minus XG. So I think that kind of gives you a bit of confidence if you are a Jota owner, that despite him maybe not getting as much minutes, like not 90 minutes for sure, he is definitely only kind of expected to get 75, and Nunes is also coming back into the squad now, gotten more minutes in game week 2, so we could see some form of rotation going on. Jota still feels like first choice to me, but it's good news that despite him getting lesser minutes, he still is putting up good numbers. So there we go with players due to score. Let's take a look now at the players that are due to assist. So next up, looking at players to assist, top of the list here is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, it is quite worrying, I would say, that he's not getting the full 90 minutes. He did not have a full preseason, of course, with Liverpool, so that could be the explanation why. But ideally, when I'm paying 7 million for a premium defender, I would hope that he would be on the pitch for 90 minutes so that he can get attacking returns on top of the clean sheet. I mean, the good thing is that he's locking in those clean sheets early. We don't have to sweat an extra 20 minutes. But I actually rather that he stays on the pitch and get those attacking returns, because when you put the numbers here on the screen at 1.5 XA, he has been expected to get, based on the chances that he's created, at least 1.5 assists. I mean, say one over the first 2 games. That was the kind of quality of the deliveries that he was putting in. So I do think like Trent Alexander-Arnold in the next few would be starting to get some assist points as well. For those further down the list, there's McNeil here, which is quite interesting. He's dropped in price to 5.4, but he has been putting up decent numbers, even similar to Bruno Fernandes at 0.8 as well. Right, for Odegaard here, he is at 8.5 million. No real price changes for him. And I guess for Odegaard owners, you guys would have been quite frustrated because he blanked in the first 2 games. But I do think like he is still putting up decent numbers. Also another player that could be frustrating to own, but I still do think that the assists are on the horizon for him. Further down is Kudus, is Mbeumo as well. What I would say about Mbeumo is that if Ivan Toney really does leave before the transfer window closes, the appeal of him just goes up by an incredible amount, because he would then be on penalties. He would be kind of their main talisman. So aside from getting assists as well, I do think that if Ivan Toney does leave, the expected goal numbers for him would also increase, and he also is not in the players to score due to score list simply because he already scored in game week 1. So he has been kind of matching his expectation. So I do like Mbeumo, and the numbers here kind of show that he's due to get an assist as well. Martinelli, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and then Doku complete this list. So let me know which of these players that you have, and the kind of numbers tell us that they are due to assist. Let's now have a look at the clean sheet odds. So next up, we have the clean sheet odds here, and this is basically how I deal with my benching dilemmas, because I've taken a look at some teams that have been sent to me this week, and there are quite a bit of benching dilemmas. I think the most popular one I see is Trent Alexander-Arnold, Gabriel, and then that last spot being between Konza and Robinson. I've seen a couple of teams with that kind of a dilemma. You're deciding between whether to start Robinson or Konza. You look at the clean sheet odds here for Fulham and Aston Villa, it's literally neck and neck, 27% for both of them. So in these kind of cases, what I would do is to start the more attacking defender, who is obviously Robinson as compared to Konza. So kind of to put an answer to that, I would start Robinson ahead of Konza. Now, I also received a couple of questions about whether maybe people should be benching Gabriel because he has Brighton, and Brighton have been doing pretty well attackingly, or even Trent because he has Manchester United. But what I would say is that Gabriel is top for clean sheet odds this week, 48%, despite them playing Brighton. And I think a large percentage of that comes down to Arsenal playing at the Emirates, and it's literally a fortress for them. So I think we could see, I mean, you would back Arsenal to keep a clean sheet there, and they are the highest for odds-wise here. So I would start Gabriel for sure. For Trent as well, 23% is 4% lower than Fulham and Aston Villa's clean sheet odds. But despite that being the case, Trent is a player that does not rely only on clean sheets. He also has a lot of attacking potential, and therefore I would still start Trent ahead of someone like Konza or someone like Robinson. So it really comes down, as I've mentioned, to starting either one of Robinson and Konza, and just making sure that you start Gabriel and Trent, right? So let me know what you think about this dilemma and who you are starting if you're in this position. Would you start Konza or would you start Robinson? And just a last part that I want to call out is a lot of people have Porro, I'm sure. And you look at Spurs' clean sheet odds there, it is one of the lowest this week at 12%. So they're really not expected to keep a clean sheet. So I think we Porro owners, myself included, have to be hoping for an attacking return there. But I think something else that bodes well is that them having very low clean sheet odds also means that Newcastle are predicted to score against Spurs. So people who own Isak, maybe you hold. People who own Anthony Gordon like myself, maybe we hold as well. Right? So this gives me a bit of confidence, or maybe I just want to make myself feel better because I have double Newcastle attack now, and I also have Porro. Not ideal that they're playing each other, but yeah, it is what it is. So let me know what you guys think, and the benching dilemmas that you have. Hopefully the clean sheet odds here can kind of help you in that process. So next up, we have the captaincy algorithm that has been successful for 2 weeks on the spin now. For game week 1, it shows Salah, who scored 14 points. In game week 2, it shows Haaland, who scored 17 points, a hat-trick of course. So for this week, the captaincy algorithm has chosen Haaland again. Now before I jump into the actual algorithm points that are given to them, for those who are new to this section, the way I calculate this is I weight the average value of predicted points from 3 different sources for all these 3 players that you see on screen right now. In fact, I've done it for all the players in the FPL database, and thereafter I pick out the top 3 in terms of them getting the highest weighted average value. So Haaland here has come up on top, 6.98 algorithm points, but very closely behind is Cole Palmer at 6.78. Last here, I mean not last because there are a lot of other players further down the list, but third is 6.7 with Saka. So I think you don't really need an algorithm to tell you to captain Haaland this week. If you have him, I think it's straightforward enough. There are some people kind of thinking whether if you have Palmer and Haaland, who would you captain? I would still favor Haaland, and the algorithm also does so. But I think maybe it's closer than we expected it to be. It's really only 0.2 algorithm points away from each other. So it is close. I haven't really put that much thought into captaincy for my own team because I don't have Palmer. But for those of you in your kind of a position where you have both of them, Haaland and Palmer, let me know what you guys are doing. Are you brave enough to captain Palmer instead of Haaland? Because they are very, very close. To kind of put this into context, last week, Haaland was at about 8.2, 8.3 kind of algorithm points, and Salah, who was the next highest, was at 7.8 or 7.9. So there was a huge disparity last week, and that's why Haaland was the standout captain last week. But when you look at game week 3, it's very, very close between Haaland and Palmer. So I guess there's more of a debate here. For Saka at 6.7, he is also very close by 0.08 points behind Palmer. So I think if you are in a position where, say for example, you are wildcarding and you have a Salah only draft, and therefore you probably would have Palmer and Saka as well. Who do you captain between Palmer and Saka? The algorithm would favor Palmer slightly ahead of Saka. And I think when I look at Crystal Palace's defense, I can kind of understand why. A lot of people are kind of getting injured or they're being transferred out. Like Anderson has left. Richards, if I'm not wrong, is a player that got injured midweek. So their defense is kind of crumbling. And I do think like Chelsea could exploit that. So maybe that's why Palmer is just slightly ahead in terms of algorithm points. But I also fully expect Saka to do well there. So if you're in that kind of a dilemma, algorithm here has Palmer ahead of Saka, but let me know what you are doing in the comments down below. If you guys enjoy this section, please do drop a comment to give me any feedback on this. But let's take a look at the final section for this video. So to end off this video, I'm going to share with you guys some other notable stats that we've learned in the first 2 game weeks. And we're going to start off here with the Wolves versus Chelsea game. Now, Wolves lost to Chelsea 2-6. But when you look at the expected goals there, Wolves generated 2.11 expected goals and Chelsea only kind of generated 1.65. So for them to score 6 goals was quite a big overperformance. So I think on another day, maybe they don't score as highly. And just to call out Madueke as well, he scored 3 goals from 0.58 xg. So that's a huge overperformance. Now, I say kind of these 2 points here, I've put them down, not to kind of say that Chelsea aren't doing well. I think they did quite well, especially when you put in a performance like that away from home. You are kind of, in a position where people will be focusing on your players. But I just want to say that Madueke has been on a bit of an overperformance there for Game Week 3. Don't expect him to score or put up this kind of overperformance every single game week. But that said, I still think he is a strong performer. He is still a very good clinical finisher. So 3 goals from 0.58 xg is probably not something he'll keep up, but I still think with the chances that Chelsea are able to create for him, say for example Palmer continues to play in that number 10 position, they have a very strong kind of chemistry, Madueke and Palmer. And if that is the case that we see moving forward, I do think Madueke will continue to do well. For the other stats that we have here, Bruno Fernandes is top for non-penalty expected goal involvement. And I think it's no surprise. Owners, you would already know that he has been massively unlucky. So do hold on to him because I think the returns are soon going to come. But when you look at the next player or the next highest non-penalty expected goal involvement, I don't think you would kind of think about this name, or Semenyo just wouldn't come to mind. But he is at 1.93, so he has been putting up very, very respectable numbers. So I think at 5.5, he needs to come into the conversations more often, and I do understand why some people are calling him out as a differential to go for. Next up as well, you see Semenyo's name appear as well, and this time it's him and Eze who are joint top for total shots taken. So I do think like Semenyo is really coming up as a very statistically attractive option, and Eze as well, we know he has been taking a lot of shots and being massively unlucky. Game week 1 got a disallowed goal, game week 2 hit the post. So again, another player I think you guys should hold on to. For the 5th point here, it's Muniz, who is top with 9 shots in the box. So for those who are holding on to Muniz, he has a good fixture now, Ipswich away in game week 3. You definitely start him and you don't sell him. I think he will start to return sooner rather than later. For Souček, coming up with 8 shots in the box, he just picked up a goal, and in fact, he was one of the kind of underperformers that we touted in this video to score in game week 2, sorry. So therefore, I think if he continues to put up these numbers, he also needs to come into the conversation more often, and we need to start putting him on our radars. He is very, very cheap at 5 million. So Souček one to keep an eye on. And lastly, the Liverpool defense has been the best defense in the league so far. You would think it's Arsenal, but actually Arsenal are at 1.75 expected goals conceded over the 2 games that we've seen so far in the Premier League. And Ollie Watkins really should have wiped out the Arsenal clean sheet. But that aside, the Liverpool defense have only conceded 1.0 expected goals over the first 2 games. And they obviously kept 2 clean sheets as well. So if we're putting kind of numbers to back it up, the Liverpool defense is actually the best one in the league so far. So maybe we should start to change our thinking about the Liverpool defense a little bit, because they are a team that were not very strong defensively, but they have been putting in consistently good performances in the first 2 game weeks. So if they are able to keep it up, I think we need to start maybe thinking about Liverpool as an elite defense already, because this is a new kind of a system that they're playing. Under Arne Slot, maybe the defense is more shored up as well. So good things to come for Liverpool. I think we keep a lookout for that. But if not, hopefully this kind of a statistical summary is useful for you guys who are considering some players on this list here. If not, if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like. Please do subscribe as well. And if you want to keep up with this series every single game week, do hit that notification bell as well. And I will catch you guys tomorrow for the team selection video.